Welcome back to Entrepreneur Money Stories. If hiring is part of your growth strategy in your business, then this episode is for you. Today, I have Jamie Van Cuyk, the owner and lead consultant of Growing Your Team. She is an expert in hiring and onboarding teams within small business owners. This is actually Jamie's second time on the show, and I love her approach. She really draws on her leadership experience and has a unique perspective in working with small business owners and the way that our hiring process is different from big business. We are unique as small business owners, the way that we have to carefully consider and make every business decision. And so Jamie brings that perspective to hiring. So stay tuned for my conversation with Jamie. Jamie, welcome to Entrepreneur Money Stories.
Hi, Danielle. Thank you so much for having me.
I am really excited to talk about hiring. And this is one of the biggest, I want to call it concern of our clients and small business owners. A lot of us are amazing practitioners. We're really good at what we do. And as we're growing businesses, we suddenly have to be HR, hiring managers, leaders, all of the things. But before we get into that, maybe you could just pause and tell the listeners just a little bit about yourself and what your mission in the world is today.
Yes. So I am Jamie Van Cuyk, and I am the owner of Growing Your Team. At Growing Your Team, we teach small business owners how to gain the confidence so that way they can hire like a pro. So they know when to hire, who they really need on their team, and then how to find that person that they need. So they can either all do it themselves, or we do offer some full service recruiting as well. So for those business owners that are like, all right, I understand what to do, I just don't have time, take some of this work off my plates. So our mission is to really help business owners step more into that CEO role and get more of that day-to-day work off their plate and delegate it to the right people on their teams.
Yeah. So I think this is really perfect for somebody listening that either a seasoned business owner, this is always applicable, but even for somebody who is finding themselves in that area of change. You're growing your business. You can't do everything yourself, and you need to start bringing on team members. So I want to pause before, I have so many questions jotted down for you. I think this is a big topic, but I want to just pause. Maybe we can just talk a little bit about the hiring trends that you're seeing today and then going into next year. And I was telling you before we hit record, a little bit of what I'm seeing from my non-entrepreneur family and friends is this concern about big businesses, layoffs, and concern about the economy. But that's just not what I'm seeing with our clients. And I'm not seeing that in small businesses. So maybe you could just talk to us a little bit, like, what is that looking like?
Yeah. So, I think there's so much we could talk about here. So first, let's go back. So it's end of October 2023 as we're going to record this, but let's go back to early 2023. And I feel like across small businesses, across even a lot of big businesses, people were unofficially at a lot of hiring freezes. They're like, we don't know what's going to happen. Let's see what's going on. We hear this word recession being thrown around. I don't want to hire someone and then have to fire them a month later if things happen. So people were really scared to make the moves that they needed for their business. As the year went on, people started to gain more confidence. And I feel like we're in the spot right now where there's a lot more confidence that, yes, the economy is always going to have its ups and downs, but hopefully we're not going into this huge recession where all these businesses are going to go under. So people are feeling a lot more confident and they're starting to hire the people that they really need on their team.
I'm glad you went backwards to go forward, because there was a lot of, I want to call it like anxiety and angst around early 2023. And what we kept on seeing is clients would come to us and say, I feel like business is down. It feels really slow. And I'm like, okay, obviously, let's look at the numbers. Let's see what the numbers are telling us. And the numbers weren't telling the same story. It was just this underlying tone and feeling that it was slower, but not actually indicating that in the numbers. So it sounds like that happened in the hiring kind of world as well.
Yeah, definitely. And I love that you said that, Danielle, because like I always say, you have to hire for what's going on in your business, not based on these what ifs or your feelings. So you taking people through and saying, let's actually look at your numbers. Let's see what's going on. let's take these emotions out of that process and actually do what your business needs right now is such an important step. And it's something like a lot of times we let those emotions override our decisions when we shouldn't be. We really should be focusing on what does your business actually need? Because when you don't hire when your business needs it, you can actually be hurting your revenue and you can be negatively impacting your numbers by not spending on that team that you need. So that's a very important thing you brought up.
Let's pause there. Sometimes there is a spending gap. And I don't think this is something that we hear often enough that, there's in our research kind of 4 different spending types. People land in these 4 personality gaps. The 2 biggest I see are like free spenders and our keepers. And when you're afraid to invest in your business, like hiring, you're losing out on opportunities. Like that's losing out on opportunities for growth. Yeah. I'm so glad you said that.
Yeah, because there's only so much you can do. There's only so much your current team can do. And you're really limiting yourself when you're not hiring. So I think a lot of people were in those fears. They were in that place of fear. They were in that like, what if I feel like things are going on in my business that are not necessarily going on in their business? And now people are saying, okay, I need this help. I need this support. So people are a lot more confident to hire again. One of the things where I think makes a difference between big businesses and small businesses, one thing we have to remember is layoffs are always happening in big businesses. Right now, they're making a lot more news and a lot of more companies are operating in that fear perspective, but layoffs happen every year. Layoffs happen in big businesses even when we're having the best economy out there because businesses make decisions that don't work out and then they need to right-size their team again. So
I know, we don't know the reason behind their hiring in the first place. Like, did they hire and it just didn't align with their goals? Like, did the goals that they had not come to fruition and that's why we're doing layoffs?
Right. Yeah. So layoffs are always happening. And we just have to look at that as let's not worry about what's going on in their business. Let's worry about what's going on in our business. One of the other things that makes it so big businesses are different than small businesses is a lot of times small businesses, you're really intentional in everything you do. You're going to make sure that you're not over hiring. You're going to make sure that you're really doing your due diligence and you're pivoting quickly and you're making the decisions that make it so you don't always end up with these big inflated teams that sometimes corporate companies have. Corporate companies will go and say, hey, we think we're going to hit this number. Let's go hire 200 people. And then you realize, oh, wait, we're 150 people over what we really need to support this now that we're in the middle of it. Small businesses don't do that. Small businesses almost hire reactively instead of proactively, which, as we talked about, can sometimes be a hindrance, but it also puts you in a better position that chances are when these layoffs start happening, your business is in a stronger spot because you made strategic decisions to grow at the right pace and hire at the right pace for your business.
So overall, hiring trends, people are still hiring. People are back to hiring and small businesses are still growing.
Yes, definitely. And I think like if we're going to go even farther back, like let's look at what happened a lot during COVID. COVID hit, things shut down for a few weeks. A lot of big businesses were quick to lay off. They're like, let's get rid of this overhead. Let's make those decisions that maybe we were thinking about making decisions anyway. And some small businesses jumped to make some of those same decisions. And then what happened? A lot of small businesses started to thrive. Yes, there were certain industries that were highly, highly impacted, but a lot of small businesses thrived during that time. And then they were able to hire and build their teams and really grow their revenue and everything during that. So I think we also have to look at that. Yeah, maybe there'll be a downside in the economy, but it doesn't mean that every small business is going to close. You can thrive in any environment, and it depends on what your business is. But when you make the right hiring decisions, when you make the right overall decisions for your business.
All right, let's talk about hiring trends for next year. Anything specific that we need to be aware of going into next year? Like any popular methods or anything specific that we should have on our minds?
Yeah. So some of the things that I think we really need to be thoughtful of is kind of the use of technology in the hiring process. AI is all over the place right now. And we really, I think, need to create a hiring process that helps us determine face-to-face or verbally if someone is the right process and rely less on written things in the hiring process. Resumes are a good example for this. I know that I always train my clients how to properly read a resume so you're not reading between the lines and you can make decisions quickly and you're looking for the right things. But resumes have always had the potential of being written by somebody else. Now someone can go and write their entire cover letter through somebody else, like through AI and everything. So you have to learn what you can trust and what you shouldn't trust during the hiring process. And you have to figure out what's important for you. There's been this trend that I think it's fingers crossed that it's dying out, is even one-way video interviews where I send you a list of questions. I want you to record your answers and send them back to me. Those don't do very well. Those don't really produce the right results
for us. We tried, we tried it in one hiring round. We used Video Ask and it did not, it fell pretty flat. So overall, that has not been working for people.
Yeah, it's not working. And the reason why that's not working is because you're saying to the candidate, I need you to give me all your time, but I'm not willing to give you any of my time yet. So what are a lot of candidates going to go? Oh gosh, like I don't want to work there. They're asking so much of me. They are going and they don't even know me. Like they don't even know. I don't even know if I want to work there yet. I don't even know if this environment's for me. And they're asking so much. Is this the type of boss that's just going to throw things on my plate and not really care to form a connection with me? So people said, no, this isn't the place I want to work if this is what they're going to ask of me before we even ever have a conversation. So people are really looking for that culture fit. And so that culture fit goes to the first point of contact in your hiring process. If you don't make it a good connection, a lot of the great candidates are going to be going elsewhere. So you want to make sure you have a hiring process that is really connecting with the candidates. And you want to make sure you have a hiring process that really connects and uncovers the candidates' actual skills and not their ability to use AI platforms out there.
Yes. How about the application process? Any changes there? Like I'm thinking old school style, filling out a paper resume, maybe new form might be a Google form or some type of application. Are those dying away as well?
I think slowly they are. And I also think slowly they should be. If you look at a lot of candidate feedback, if you follow things like on Twitter or even Reddit threads or anything like that, where people are talking about that, and it's like, why do I have to fill out an application to give you the exact information that's on my resume? And it's like, yeah, why are we doing that? Why are we having people regurgitate information for us because we're too lazy to read it on a resume? Well, then why are we even asking for a resume in the first place? So that's one of the things I think we need to think of. Why are we asking for everything we're asking for in the hiring process? Why am I asking for an application for them to fill out their name and email address when they already gave it to me? Why am I asking this question before we go to have an interview? So when occasionally with my clients, we do use some sort of Google form or stuff for an application, but we always say, why do we need to know this information before a conversation? And sometimes we don't. Delete that question off of there. We can cover that in an interview. And sometimes it's like, well, because of what we're hiring for, we need to understand this skill set, this background, this thing a little bit more than what would be on a typical resume. So for example, sometimes people will say, yeah, I know how to use the software, but do they really know how to use it at the level that we need? So we might ask a question about their software experience if a type of software is make or break in the process. For example, sometimes I work with some nonprofits. We might ask a question about someone's nonprofit involvement because maybe they have a lot of nonprofit involvement. It's just not on their resume because it was that volunteerism. They were on those boards and they might just have a blurb and there are like additional things on their resume. But we want to ask a little more about that to see if they're the right fit for what we're hiring for. So if you're going to use an application, ask yourself why you need to know it at that step of the process before you include it in your application.
Thank you. All right, let's kind of take a step back. I appreciate you sharing those hiring trends. I think it's really important for us to kind of take a pulse and a check-in with the economy. But for our small business owner who is still not sure if they even need to hire, right? Like when do you know when you need to hire? And is there any specific action that somebody who's not sure can take?
Yes, I love this question. And the first thing I'll go through, there's 4 signs that we say that it's time to hire. And then we always say, if it's time to hire, then you need to make sure you can actually hire. So that'd be the great time to speak to someone like Danielle and your team and everything to say, can I afford this team member and everything, and figuring out your numbers. But the signs that it's time to hire, and I encourage every business to sit down, look at your business at least once a quarter, if not once a month, to identify these signs, because you're going to get in the habit of just doing and adding more to your plate and keep on going. And typically you overlook these signs until it's way too late. So you have to make conscious action to identify these signs, and if you're going to hire at the right time. So the first is you're saying no to your idea client. So there's projects you would love to take on, new clients that you would love, but you don't have the capacity to take them on. For a lot of businesses, this could even look like having wait lists. And for some businesses, wait lists work for them in terms of a marketing thing, and they know that they can increase their prices, and they know they can be really in demand, and they're going to have this wait list and telling people you need to get on the wait list and you're going to wait 3 to 6 months to work with us.
So when you're using a wait list, that's not a marketing tactic.
Yes, but when you're like,
right.
Gosh, I really wish I could grow my revenue. I really need that increased revenue. I want to increase what I'm paying myself, but I don't have time to take on these clients because I can only work with so many clients a month. And that wait list isn't working for you, it's working against you. That's one of those things where it's like you need to hire and expand your team so you could get more of those clients into your books and everything now. The second one is that you're losing customers. And this is because customers are just no longer happy and satisfied with the work that you're producing. So maybe you used to have a 48-hour turnaround time, and now it's almost 4 business days when you're going to go and produce something. And your clients feel that. You're not as responsive when they reach out for questions. And we're not talking about those clients that are those pain in the butt clients that you're like, oh my gosh, they expect me to respond immediately. We're talking about the average client and your average response time. If all of a sudden it's getting way longer and your clients just aren't happy. So they're not renewing their contracts. They're not coming back to you the next time they have that same project. They're going with a competitor. So you know that they're no longer satisfied and they're going elsewhere. This also plays a part depending on your type of business when it goes to getting new clients. If someone reaches out to inquire about your services and by the time you get back to them, they've already gone to someone else, well, you have that customer service lag. You're not responding in a timely manner that's going to allow that person to trust you and learn about your services and learn about your business so they can buy from you versus somebody else. Sign number 3 is you want to do something new in your business, but you can't because you're stuck doing what you're currently doing. You don't have time to move away from your current service offerings to do something else. You don't have time to open that second location because all your time has to be dedicated to that first location. You can't, maybe, for example, start that podcast that you've always been wanting, or you want to start that other kind of income stream of teaching people how to do what you're doing for your clients, but you can't because you're just stuck doing what you're currently doing and serving your current clients. And then the 4th sign is you lack skill or knowledge that your business needs. There comes a point where you have to stop learning and you have to hire the experts, because hiring that expert is actually going to cost you less than the time it's going to take you to do it yourself.
All right. That was it's like you read my mind. Okay. My next question was, how do you know if you need an expert in your business or if you need somebody who's entry level that you are going to train them on the core processes, the SOPs, what you do and how you do it? How do you know which one you need?
Yeah, so great question. And I love that you asked this. I recently recorded an episode for my podcast kind of about entry-level workers and whether we should hire them in small businesses. So the first is, if you ask any business owner, they're going to say, I want that expert. I don't have time to train and everything. And that's true for a lot of cases with your early hires. You don't necessarily have the time to train someone from the ground up. You have to remember that you still need to train even that expert on your process, your expectations, and everything internal, even if they know how to do what
your core values. Because no matter what, you might have a different standard or specific way you want things done, even if they're an expert. I think those core values piece.
It's like, think of your industry. Unless you're doing something unethical, the process of working with people's books and reconciling numbers and transactions and all that is pretty much the same business to business to business. But how that person, like that boss, wants those reports, how frequently they want conversations, whether they're the type of person you can just send over the reports and say, here you go, or they're the type of person that you need to sit down and have a meeting with because they have no idea what they're looking at and you need to walk them through it. It's those nuances that take that same task and make it different in every business because those expectations are different based on who the boss is. So when it comes to figuring out, should you be hiring entry-level workers? Sometimes it comes down to your budget. We all want the expert, but guess what? Chances are at the beginning, you're not going to be able to afford that expert. So what can you afford? What does that position look like that actually matches your available budget? And a lot of times when we look at that—
Can I interrupt you for 1 second?
Yeah.
Because this is, when we talk about can we afford, I just want to say it's not what you think you can afford. It's what you can actually afford, right? Because I think that we're telling ourselves a story a lot of times as small business owners to say, I can't, like, I can't afford it. I can't invest that much money in somebody else. My business can't support that. But it might just be the story that we're telling ourselves because we've been trained to think that we always have to cut back and we have to spend a minimal amount of money. But what we see is that there's more often a spending gap. We're actually not willing to spend the money that we need to get to the level as a business owner that we want to be in. So just knowing very specifically what your numbers are, don't go based on feeling. Actually have that conversation with your money team about what can you afford, because I don't want anyone to dismiss. Look, and I say this without judgment. We've all been there. I'm sure you've been there. I've been there. Like, I don't want anyone to tell themselves a story that they can't hire an expert when maybe there's someplace in the middle.
Yeah.
When they look at the numbers.
Yeah, definitely. I know when I really first started making money in my business, I was afraid to spend. And I was actually strangling my business because I wasn't spending money. Because, yeah, like maybe my revenue was lower than what my goals were or what my future expectations were. But at that point in time, I wasn't willing to spend based on the revenue that I was actually receiving. And it was like sitting down and actually looking over my numbers with an expert that made me realize that I had this money in my budget that I should be spending on expenses to help me grow. And once I got past that mindset block and started spending that money, my business started growing even more. So yes, like sit down and actually know your numbers to know what you can afford. I also find it a lot of times is because we talked about sometimes the sign that you need to hire is that you're turning away your idea clients, that you can't take on that additional business. And so there's that shift you have to make to say, when I hire somebody, I then have the capacity to take on more business. So I'm going to get that additional revenue. But sometimes we look at it as the revenue that we have today. And then we think we can't hire because this is the revenue and this is always going to be my revenue. And it's like, no, well, you're hiring because this is going to happen in your business. And one of the things of like sitting down and looking at your numbers and really understanding that is, yes, you need to be able to afford that person at first based on your current revenue, but you're eventually going to have that increase of revenue if you hire the right person and you do the right things in your business because you have this person. So that cushion or that budget that's going to go towards your team members is going to get bigger because your revenue is growing overall.
Have you heard yourself saying, I'm scared to invest money in my business because what if it doesn't come back? I don't know how much to pay myself, so I won't take a paycheck yet. I'm reinvesting in the business anyway. Or how about, I'm not going to spend any more money until I know exactly where my money is going. Well, let me tell you, you are not alone. In fact, we have heard all of these stories and more throughout the last 9 years at Kickstart Accounting Inc. And that is why we have created the Money Mindset Mastery Framework to finally unlock and overcome these stories, to finally feel confident in your financial decisions and pay yourself what you deserve. The first step to create a profitable and successful business is to first understand your money mindset. Find out your money mindset personality type by going to kickstartaccountinginc.com/quiz. I can't wait to hear what your money mindset type is. Yeah. If you decide that you've crunched the numbers, you've looked, you've talked to your money team, and you decide, okay, I can't hire an expert. I am going to hire somebody who might be an entry level. I need to train them. And I want to train them on my processes, how I do things. What should somebody have prepared and ready before they hire that person? And then what are some key things that they need to have in their mindset before they start actually looking for that individual?
Yes, great question. Yeah. So the first thing I just want to touch on that is, we talked about, hiring that entry level person. And one of the things before we get into this that I just want to stress is this is actually something I recently had a conversation about. This was in a field that right now they're looking for experts. And they said the problem that they're looking for experts right now is because during the last recession, no one hired. Everyone went on a hiring freeze. No one hired entry level. And therefore, the level of person that everybody needs today would have been that entry level person during the last recession. And seeing those people didn't get hired, they actually are at a lack of experts now because you have your other people that are retiring and then you have your other people that are too junior and there's this gap of expertise. So that's one of the things we have to realize is sometimes we need to hire entry level because we need to be responsible for building those future employees that we want and need. We can't always rely on other people because other people might not be hiring them as well. So if nobody hires entry level in a few years, there's not going to be the experts out there. So that's one thing to keep in mind. So, all right, you say, I'm willing to go and hire that entry level person. I'm willing to train. So the first thing you need to do is really decide what is important. So entry level can look very different. And we're typically, when we refer to entry level, we're saying somebody who has not done this yet or someone who has not done it for a lot of time yet. So maybe they've had some internships or they have work experience, but it's in a different industry and we're willing to hire someone that's coming over. So we need to say outside of the core, I guess, day-to-day tasks, what are the skill sets that this person needs to showcase that they can fit into our culture, that they can be the person who is capable of learning? So some of the things might be that your team member needs to be able to work with customers. All right, well, maybe they've never worked with customers in corporate before or in the type of position you're hiring for, but have they had other jobs where they've worked with customers? Maybe they were a server at a restaurant in college and they have that face-to-face customer experience. They know how to work in a high stress situation.
Yeah, looking at their full resume rather than just the industry specific, right?
Yeah. So we look at things like that. Okay, we need someone who has this skill set. All right, how can they have got that skill set? Where is that expertise that's outside of the position that we're hiring for? So maybe let's just say, for example, we're willing to hire someone who's an entry-level bookkeeper. Maybe we want someone who has certain skills that we can teach the bookkeeping to. We're okay. We'll take someone who just wants to thrive in the industry. We'll teach those bookkeeping skills, but we need to know that they have the ability to do this, that they have the ability for those other skill sets, those soft skills and things that we want on that team member. We also need to make sure that they have the ability to learn. So if you're willing to go with someone entry level in an industry, once again, I'll just throw out bookkeeping, where you really have to be in tune to the numbers. You have to have this skill set. It's not something for everybody. Do they have the ability to learn the nuances? Do they have the ability? And so it might not be that they've done it in this industry yet, but do they show elsewhere that they can go in and learn the nuances and thrive in a new industry?
Yeah. My dad gave me this advice as I was going into my master's degree. He said, you don't have to know a single answer, but you need to have the ability to learn how to research. And I think that that's a big piece of it, right? Like having the desire and the skill set to be able to want to learn and to want to find the answer to be able to grow into that position.
Yes, definitely. So then I would say, so after you really figure out what is important in a candidate, you then create a hiring process to go out and find that candidate. So the job posting that you're going to put out for your entry-level bookkeeper that maybe is not coming in with any experience in the bookkeeping industry is going to look completely different than if you're hiring a bookkeeper with 2 to 3 years of experience. The same with anything else. You're going to go hire an account manager. You're going to hire an operations specialist, anything like that. And your job posting where you're specifically going out to find that entry-level person is going to look different than that person who has 3 years of experience, 5 years of experience, 10 years of experience, even if technically the tasks that they're doing day to day are the same. Your interview questions are going to be different. Your entry-level person, we're not going to ask questions about them doing this exact tasks in this exact industry. Because guess what? They haven't done that yet. So we're going to ask questions to pull out, do they have the skills? Let's pull out that experience they have from their other work experience, even if it was a part-time retail job, to see, do they have the skills that we need? So developing questions that are designed for your ideal candidate. Sometimes we do, when we go create our interview guides, we'll create 2 questions that we're really trying to uncover the same thing. One will label, if this person does have some experience in this industry, ask this. If they don't, ask this. So that way, if they do have some experience, maybe it's an internship in the industry, we can ask about that industry experience specifically. But if we know a candidate doesn't have that industry specific experience yet, we're not saying, hey, tell me about your experience in this industry. And the candidate going like, wait, I don't have any. How do I answer this question?
You have my resume,
right? Right. So we can change that question to get the information that we need based on the candidate that we're interviewing.
I'm hearing the business owner listening that's saying, I don't have time, right? Like the idea of combing through resumes and holding interviews, it's keeping me stuck. What do you say to that person?
So you have 2 options. Well, I guess 3 options. You can stay stuck, you can find the time, or you can get the support to help you through that hiring process. And you really have to make that decision. Like, hiring does take time, and hiring good quality team members does take time. But the thing you have to think about is, if you rush to that hiring process just to get a butt in the seat, your chances of that person not working out are extremely high because you didn't do your due diligence to make sure that they're the team member that you need. And when you get someone on your team that's not the team member that you need, you spend a lot more time on training that person, a lot more, even just mental energy, thinking about, oh my gosh, did they do this right? Did they not do it right? I have to go check their work. I have to have this conversation with this team member, which pulls you away from the work that you should be doing. Then if they don't work out, you have to repeat that entire hiring process. So hiring someone that's not right for your business can set your business back. I think they say an average, I think it's 16 weeks for every bad hire sets your business back 16 weeks. And that's way too long. So you just need to find the time first to find the right hire. And it does take time, but when you have the right tools and you know how to navigate the process, it doesn't feel like it takes as much time. Yes, you still have to find time on your schedule for interviews, but the process will move smoothly and you'll feel more confident when you're prepared to hire.
Yeah, having those tools are going to allow you to streamline, and having confidence in anything does save you time.
Yes, definitely.
Like, you're not having to pre-prep questions for every interview. You have your set of questions that you're going into an interview with, right?
Yes. Yes.
All right. How about for the person who's saying, I want to hire, but I'm scared to be a leader?
This is definitely something I would say almost every business owner goes through, because your business is your baby. You're doing things and you like the way you're doing things. Or even if you don't love the way you're doing things, you still know it's getting done. And that if it doesn't get done right, it's on your shoulders. You have no one to blame but yourself. And now you're trusting somebody else. And this fear of delegating comes up a lot, but it's one of those fears that we have to work to get over, because you're going to hold yourself back. You're going to keep too much on your plate if you don't delegate. So the way I would say to really get over this fear is just to really, once again, understand what it is that you're delegating and creating a process to get that work off of your plate and to train that new team member. We work with a lot of our clients through an onboarding process that helps take that new hire from day one to that fully functioning team member. And a lot of times we create a process that helps encourage that delegating, because you're seeing the progress in that team member. A lot of times we expect too much too quick out of new team members. And so when you really have an onboarding process laid out that, let's say it's going to take 4 weeks, you understand that it's going to take 4 weeks. You're not going to expect them to be the perfect hire at the end of the first week.
I feel so seen right now.
Yeah, that you know that they're only capable of doing so much because you've only taken so much time to train them. You've only let so much of the training wheels off, that they're still in that training period. It's like we would never put a kid on a bicycle and say, go at it. We hold the bike for them. We have training wheels. We teach them how to do it. And eventually they get it. And some kids learn to ride that bike so much faster than others, but it's still a process to get there. So you need a process that takes those training wheels off and then lets that team member go at the appropriate speed. And that appropriate speed, what most business owners don't want to see or don't see, is the fact that that speed is typically based on you as the business owner and not so much on your team member. So it's on you training them. It's about you giving them projects and things to work on so you can see what they're doing right and what they're doing wrong. It's about then helping them see the gaps. It's about clearly setting the expectations so they know what is right and know what is wrong. It's about letting them sometimes fail in a controlled environment where the mistakes can be fixed before it impacts the client or your business. So that way they learn. And you have to really give them that opportunity to learn, and you have to be the teacher. And it might, if you're scared of delegating, it might be like, oh my gosh, that sounds so complicated, but it's really not. And when you get to the other side, you're really going to see the benefits of that time and effort that you put in.
All right. So for the business owner who has only ever had contractors, and when I say contractors, I mean experts doing a piece of the business for you, and they've decided that they are ready to start taking some control internally and ready to start hiring. What are some action steps that this person should take before they even launch the job? So maybe what do we do before we even launch the job? Is there mindset shifts that we need to make, money mindset shifts that we need to make? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So, the money mindset, seeing you brought that up, I do feel like it's an important one. And that's when, again, go back to your team and talk through your numbers and really figuring out what you can afford. Because one of the things where I know a lot of people like doing contractors versus employees is they say, well, it's a lot more fluid. If I have more work, that contractor takes it. And if I don't, we just don't work as much together that week, that month, and things like that, where then they're like, oh my gosh, an employee, I'm responsible for paying them the same thing every week. Maybe a little fluctuation if they're an hourly team member, but you have that range that you're paying that team member every week, and it just starts to feel heavier. And so once again, go look at your numbers, make sure you understand what you can actually afford and things like that. So that way you don't feel those numbers don't feel so heavy because you're hiring someone at a level that you can afford. So make sure you know that. The other thing is understanding that an employee, when it comes to that relationship with you, is going to be different than that contractor relationship. So what do you want your internal team to look like? What is going to be your frequency of communicating with this team member? What is going to be things like your encouragement and support? Team members look a lot more to you for guidance on what they should be doing than contractors. Then contractors, you hire that expert, you tell them what to do, you give them the deadline, they go off and do it. Employees a lot more are they're part of the internal process. So it is a little bit more of that back and forth. You're not just going to tell every employee, I need this, go and do it. Okay, you need to teach them your process. You need to teach them your internal expectations. You need to teach them a lot more than that contractor. So a few things you can do beforehand, just really understand what your expectations are, understanding what you want your communication method to be, understand what your processes are, because this person is actually going to be fully in your process, where sometimes some of your contractors are just doing those bits and pieces and they don't care what goes on internally. So really understanding what your process is internally so you can communicate it to your new team member.
I've heard you speak about finding your ideal candidate. Maybe you could just speak on that a little bit, because I think there's a lot of buzz that goes on about finding your ideal client, but not as much about finding your ideal candidate. I know we talked about it in terms of, do you want somebody who's a beginner or do you want somebody an expert? Any other things that we should be thinking about on who our ideal candidate is?
Yes. So one of the things I always like to say is just because someone's good at what they do does not mean they're right for you. So your ideal candidate is going to be the person that not only can do the tasks that you need done, is going to fit into your organization. So your culture is your culture, especially as a small business. The way you communicate, the way you work with team members, what you expect of them is really, really important. And who you are as a boss is going to be completely different than maybe your business bestie that's running almost the exact same business that you are in another area. So your culture is more than, hey, I want to go grab a coffee or a beer after work on Friday with this person because I feel like we could be best friends. Your culture is how you operate as a business every day, how you communicate with your clients, how you interact with your team members. And you really need to find someone that can fit into that culture. So when we walk our clients through the process of really identifying their ideal candidate, we ask a series of questions to really figure out who that person is. And some of the things that we ask about, we say, what is the impact of this position on the organization? And almost every business owner will say, to save me time. That's the benefit of this person, is to save me time. Okay, well, what does that really look like? How is this position saving you time? So kind of digging a little bit more into that to really understand what this person is going to do for the organization, not just the tasks day to day, but why that position matters. We then ask questions about what are the must-have criteria for this candidate? What are the things that are the make or break that a candidate must have this on their resume or in their background in order to be a good fit? So once again, for those entry-level candidates, we might not be looking for years of experience in the industry. We're looking for more of some of those other skills. Have they worked with customers? Have they been in roles that require high attention to detail? Can we see things that they are maybe show a lot of initiative because they're always working on new ideas and new projects? Can they manage multiple things at once? So different things like what are those must-haves? We then also narrow it down to nice to have. What are those things that pushes that candidate over the top? So if you had 20 candidates that all have your must-have criteria, what makes someone better? What are those things that you would love in a candidate, but someone doesn't have it? It's not necessarily a deal breaker. So once we really figure out all these things, we can then start develop who is that ideal candidate. And I like to always challenge my clients. If you say they need to be a great team player, well, what does a team player mean for your organization? How does your team actually interact? Because a team player in company A and a team player in company B are not the same. One of the things like we look at a lot of times is, I use for an example, is sales positions. Some sales teams have that culture of you make that sale no matter what. Our goal is to get as many sales as possible. While other sales cultures, it's we are client first. So we will take a lower sale with their client because it's what they need versus pushing that higher sale. So you take a person that's going to really thrive in sales culture A, where it's sell, 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 upsell, 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 and put them in culture B, where it's like, no, think of what the client wants first. Go for that lower sale if that's what's right for them and build that relationship. They're not going to fit in that culture. So you really need to know what does it mean for you. So once you know all that, the final question we ask is, what's unique about your organization? When it comes to marketing, we always think about that. What makes me unique that someone's going to buy my product or my service over my competitor? But we always say, what's unique about your organization internally that would make one person, if they read that thing, say, yes, that's where I want to work, but would make another person say, no, I don't want to work there. That sounds stressful. That sounds totally against me. And I'm just going to pass and go apply to something else. It's okay to turn people off by your job posting because you want your job posting to speak to your ideal candidate. So it's okay to tell people exactly what your culture is, exactly who your ideal candidate is, because you want to hire that person, and the people that don't identify as that ideal candidate can move on and hire or go apply for something else.
I'm really glad you said that, because I think that's something that I was scared of originally. Like, I wanted to make sure that as many people that could apply, would apply. And eventually I realized, and we actually hired a few people who weren't a great fit. We are a very fast-paced organization. I am a quick start. The company is growing rapidly. So we have to be able to really have agile team members. And so when we have found candidates who didn't thrive in that quick, fast-paced environment, we could have weeded them out, right? Like we should have put that right there in the job description so that they understood and they could self-select out. But I wasn't willing to be honest with where our company was. So I just want to share that for anybody who's thinking about it. Like, really be honest and save yourself that time and energy about who you are as a CEO and who your business is and who's really actually going to thrive in that environment.
Yes. Yeah. And I love that you brought that up of before it's like anyone who can apply should apply. And back years ago, one of my very first clients, he was going to hire while we were working together. And he was like, oh, I hate hiring. It's always stressful. I never get good quality candidates. And I'm like, all right, well, that's why I'm here. Like, we're going to figure out this problem. And I said, show me the job posting that you've used before. And he owned a gym and he was hiring personal trainers. And the job posting pretty much said, we're a gym hiring personal trainers. If you're a personal trainer, apply. It wasn't that exact verbiage, but that was pretty much the gist of it. And I said, there you go. That's your problem. You're not telling anyone if they're the ideal candidate. And he said, well, I want all personal trainers who are looking for an opportunity to apply. And then I will pick and choose who I want to interview. And I was like, well, how's that going for you? And he goes, yeah, I guess it's not. And I guess that's why we're here and having this conversation. I said, exactly. You need to call out exactly who you are as an organization and who your ideal candidate is. So that way the right people apply. Because there's so many jobs out there at times that you're not giving anyone the incentive to apply to your opening versus another one. And so we changed the job posting. We called out exactly who his ideal candidate was. And the thing is, like, his gym wasn't just a regular gym. It focused on a specific sport. So someone not only needed to be a personal trainer, they needed to have experience in this sport, which made the candidate pool extremely small. And once we said that who our ideal candidate was, within 48 hours of the job posting going live, he had 4 highly qualified candidates apply, and one of them he hired by the end of the next week. So it really made all that difference to talk directly to your ideal candidate in that job posting.
We hear this all the time with our ideal clients. So really being brave to, just like we don't want to work with everybody in terms of our ideal client, we don't want everyone working for us. So let's find our ideal candidates. So thank you for sharing that. Is there anything that I didn't ask you today that you wish I would have, or you think is really important as we head into next year?
Oh gosh, I feel like we covered so much today. I'll just put the reminder out there of hire when your business needs to hire. And work with the experts you have on your team to help you identify if it's the right time to hire, because you'll put yourself in a better position. You want your business to be the strongest it can be. And sometimes that means getting the right people on your team. So it might seem scary. You might feel that you're not the best delegator. You might feel like you can't afford it, but work with the experts that you need to get to the spot where you feel that you can afford it, that you can delegate, because chances are you can do it. You can do it. So do what's right for your business and just do what needs to be done so you can take those emotions and fear out of the process.
Yeah, I think it's a good reminder that we're all telling ourselves stories. What are the stories that you're telling yourself? And then who are the experts you need to have to help you kind of change the narrative of your story? Do you need help in putting together that job description? Do you need the tools to hire? Like, that is a great place for your team to come in place. Do you need to understand the numbers and decide if you can afford to hire? That's where our team comes into place. So know what the stories you're telling yourself are, and then who you need to help realign those stories so that you're not telling yourself a story that's not true.
Yes, exactly.
All right. Where can the audience learn more about you, your services, and connect?
Yeah, so you can learn more about me and Growing Your Team by going to growingyourteam.com. You can find us on Instagram. That's where we hang out the most. And we are at Growing Your Team. And if you're ready to jump on a call to see if you need support to hire your next team member, you can go and schedule a call at growingyourteam.com/jumpstart, with jumpstart being one word.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
All right. I have a little secret for you. I honestly was asking some of those questions of Jamie today because we are hiring here at Kickstarter County Inc. We are growing our team. I am so excited to continue our mission of helping business owners understand their numbers. We use bookkeeping as a vehicle to help business owners use their numbers to manage their business, grow, create healthy, sustainable, profitable businesses, and be prepared for tax season. So this is a huge part of our growth strategy, is having the right team members as part of our team. We want to bring in people who are just as passionate about helping you, the business owner, understand your numbers. So I hope that the questions I asked today resonated for you as a business owner as well. I know that I was taking lots of notes. And one thing that I didn't tell Jamie, but I'll tell you guys my secret. we are using a form as part of our hiring process. So when people apply, we use HR Breezy as our applicant tracking system. And then we actually don't invite people for an interview until they have completed a Google form. In the Google form, we're asking questions that are outside of their resume. So we're asking for additional information from them. We also send them a pre-recorded Loom video where I'm walking them through who we are, what we do, how we do it, the roles that are open. And so they're getting about 10 minutes of our time via a Loom video. And then we're asking for them to complete this Google form where we're able to get some additional information from them. And then we are setting up the first interview. We call our first interview the coffee chat. So it's just a 15-minute chat. And then we invite them back for a full interview. So I secretly was asking Jamie about the Google form to see what her perspective was on that hiring trend as we go into 2024. So again, I hope you enjoyed our conversation with Jamie. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. We have so many amazing guests coming up. I don't want you to miss a thing. If you need bookkeeping help in your business, I invite you to book a call at kickstartaccountinginc.com. We will fill up this tax season. So act now. Don't wait until the new year. Let's get you started right away. Go to kickstartaccountinginc.com to book your call.